Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Mini Judge Dredd and LAWMASTER Mark II and Judge Anderson and LAWMASTER Mark II. Now these are obviously two separate releases. I'm reviewing them together because they're mostly the exact same thing. But this is a pretty cool set. I know a lot of you Judge Dredd fans are probably going to be excited. I don't know if they've ever made a LAWMASTER toy before, especially one that's this cool. These were provided as review samples, but of course that doesn't get them anything but a review. I get to say whatever I want, and if that ever becomes a problem, then I just won't review this stuff anymore. That's how it works for me, just so that you know. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these guys off the stand and take a closer look. Before we get into the meat and taters, I figured I would go ahead and just show you my package as we get into it. Kind of a cool little window box, some nice comic-y artwork on there. Same artwork on the two sides, some photos on the back. Nothing special really, but it is a nice little package if you are so inclined to keep things in the package. Alright. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this guy for now for the measurements. The overall motorcycle is about 6.5 inches, almost exactly 6.5 long. Height, does it matter what the height is? I don't know. About 3.25 maybe, something like that. So I guess I'll do the 16.5 centimeters, and then I don't know, 7, something like that. So it has some decent size to it. It is still a 1/12 scale thing, so if you thought, oh wow, that looks really cool and I can't quite tell what the scale is because of the detail, here's a Marvel Legends Darwin. It's quite small compared to a standard figure, so you're getting a smaller toy for sure, but if we know anything, Hiya packs in the details. Alright, so question of the day. How many of you are fans of Judge Dredd? And I guess I shouldn't say how many. If you're a fan of Judge Dredd as a comic, which is your favorite character? As far as I'm concerned, Judge Dredd's the only character that matters. So that's because I don't know anything about it. But I'm guessing Anderson's a popular one too. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the figure off. I do want to look at the figure, so we'll do that first, and then we will look at the motor C-clays. Alright, we'll set Judge Dredd aside, and we're going to pull out Anderson as well. And these figures are basically the same as before, but there's one thing that stands out that's especially noteworthy, which is kind of a problem, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can let me know if you're Judge Dredd people, but I'm thinking I'm not wrong. Alright, so like I said, they're basically the same figures as before. They have the standard articulation. Noteworthy thing, I don't remember this guy's neck being this way, but his neck is... there's no head articulation, it's just the neck. But that does look really nice. I'm gonna go over the aesthetic real quick. I mean, we're gonna do everything real quick on these guys since the figures aren't very new. You'll notice he's very shiny. And it kind of makes sense, I guess, because he's wearing leather and the weird colors and everything, so it makes sense, and he's got the metallic parts, and it all looks really good for a figure. Like, that's a very tiny figure. He stands only about 10.5 centimeters, and that's going to be about 4 inches. So compared to a Darwin, which is significantly larger, which one looks like a better collectible? The details are just nuts. Hiya does such a good job compared to basically everybody, given the size. Okay, so that's a good thing. Figure looks really nice, but like I said, he's very shiny. And she, on the other hand, is very not shiny, and I think both looks are reasonable. Like, the matte finish is always a high-end look. I love it. And they have lots of shading and everything, so it looks really, really nice. But then so does the gloss. I don't know. I guess we could say, is this accurate? You guys can let me know which one should be accurate. And of course, it's a comic, so it's hard to say. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? And then also, which do you prefer, even if you think it might be wrong? I think I'm going to have to go with the gloss in this case. I love a matte finish, and they did a really nice job with it. But the gloss has some kind of detail to it that I like. Now, there's another thing that stands out to me, is if you look at his belt, lots of nice detail and shading and everything, but they didn't paint the little circle thingies, and they didn't paint the knuckles on the gloves. Whereas on this figure, her belt circle thingies are painted, and so are her knuckles. Particularly well, I should say, with the silver and the black. So it's a little bit inconsistent across the two figures. The golds aren't quite the same either. Hers is more of a dull and matte finish, flatter finish, and his is a little bit shinier, a little bit more color. They're just, the greens don't match. They're kind of weird in that they aren't consistent. If you had either one by itself, I think it would be great, but they are not exactly consistent. Still very, very nice releases. and I do like them quite a bit, but it's strange that they aren't consistent, and they don't come together. I want to be clear, you have to buy them separately, but I'm guessing if you're going to buy one, you're going to buy both, unless you're just buying the main guy here. So there you go. Her face is pretty well done, I'll say. Her eye's a little jacked up on mine. This eye, her right eye, I know I blocked it with my finger, but it looks pretty good overall. If you don't get a messed up one, it should be fine. So yeah, the figures are really nice. As far as accessories go, they each come with the 2 motorcycle gripping hands that are on them in the package. Then you get a gun holding hand and an accessory holding hand, and they each come with a gun and a bat, so that's pretty good. I think they're both supposed to come with the little display stand with the clippies that hold them together, but only Anderson came with it for me. For Judge Dredd, he did not get one, so I don't know if that's supposed to be or what, but mine didn't come with one. Okay, and that's it for accessories. Articulation's all the same as before. They do pose pretty well, but they have loose joints and some issues. And on mine, Dredd's hand comes off too easily, and since they're interchangeable hands, that's a problem. I'm hoping that heating this up will get it to bite onto this peg a little bit harder so I can swap the hands out if I want to. But it's kind of annoying, but it's not like a fatal flaw, and it's definitely just a QC issue, so you may not even notice it. But definitely a problem. Okay, now let's talk about the star of the show, which is the LAWMASTER Mark II. They're the same thing, so I only need to review one of them. There's nothing that makes them stand out from the other one. Okay, so it's very nice looking. They did a good job. It's not incredibly well detailed, of course, because it is a big hunk of plastic, but the paint job on it is very nice. It brings it to life very nicely. Different finishes all around. The seat has shading in it. It's kind of hard to tell. It's very dark, but the seat looks nice. The paintwork for the red going around is kind of a different finish, and it's done pretty well to the black. That's done really nicely. The front part also done very nicely. Paint and sculpt all the way around looks really, really good. The guns are added on there. They don't feel too fragile, though they probably are quite fragile. Obviously, you get the steering, so that's nice. Works pretty well. The tires are rubber, and they are painted. They could have just left them gray and crappy molded rubber, but they didn't. Probably actually a soft PVC. Well, it actually feels like rubber. Anyway, it's really, really nice. It rolls really well, and because of the fat, super unrealistic tires, it's a perfect display stand also, so that's very, very good. I like it a whole bunch. There is one other feature that might justify the price point, which we're going to get to in a second. Price point. But as you'll see, there's a battery compartment and a switch on here. It gives you directions on how to install batteries, but mine came with batteries. I guess it depends where you live and importation things, shipping problems and whatnot, but mine had the batteries in there, so I turned the switch on. And what it does is, unfortunately, it doesn't turn on like all of these different things, like these lights down here that have the clear plastic on them. They don't turn on or anything like that. These are just painted silver, but this main headlight does turn on, and you just tap it and it turns on. Now I do have the studio lighting on, so it's going to be hard to see. I'll see if I can turn off a little bit. There you go, you get the idea. So it's not super bright, but it does light that up with a singular little LED in there, I'm guessing, but it makes the white glow on that side. And I think this is just residual light bouncing back on this side. It doesn't look like there's another LED facing this direction. It looks like it's just that one. Oh no, let me turn the lights back on. There we go. So that's a pretty cool feature, and I think that's probably where a lot of the money went, although this is a lot of plastic and a fair amount of paint too, and according to Hasbro, paint is the most expensive thing ever, so I think the price point is justified. So let's get into that. We have one of their standard Exquisite minifigures plus the LAWMASTER. It's $70 at Big Bad Toy Store. Now I think these guys usually run about 25. I'm gonna say 25, I think it's roughly that. $2 either way, I'm not sure. So $25, that makes this $45. Is this worth $45 technically speaking? Now, it might not be to you subjectively. It's not to me. I don't collect this line at all, so I'm not speaking subjectively. I'm doing this as objectively as possible. Is this worth $45 based on the market? I don't know. I think that's really, really pushing it. If it didn't have the light feature, I'd say no way. But having everything painted so nicely and so cleanly and having a really sharp sculpt does go a long way, and there's a lot of paint on here. To use Hasbro's rule that any amount of paint just increases the figure's cost exponentially, this thing should cost about $45,000. And it doesn't, so that's a pretty good deal. Having the real tires on there is really nice. They spin very well, and they're painted. I mean, everything was taken into consideration, so I'm thinking technically it's worth it. The light feature, albeit quite unnecessary, does cost money. So if you think that's cool, I mean, you are paying for it, so it makes sense. So I'm going to say technically I do think it's worth that price. Would I pay personally $45 for, well, let's just say $70 for this set? No, but I have no affection for Judge Dredd, and I do think it's probably technically worth it, but it's really at the top end of technically worth it, if you ask me. Just because of the scale, as well as it's detailed, you're still paying $70 for a very small thing. So that's kind of that subjective, is it worth it to you sort of thing. I don't think they're going to have huge margins on this, which means it's worth the price as far as the actual expense goes. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. Probably worth it technically. Subjectively, that's totally up to you. But it is a damn cool thing. And if you're into Judge Dredd, especially if you're into the Hiya Toys Judge Dredd, then I think this is awesome. I mean, the LAWMASTER is a really cool motorcycle design. Judge Dredd is generally a pretty cool design. So that's going to be fun to have on your shelf. It's going to look really cool, and if you did want to take it to the grocery store and drive it along the shelves while your mom's shopping, you can do that because it does have the rubber tires. So I'm going to say yes, it's worth it technically. Subjectively, that's really up to you, but it is at the high end of technically worth it, in my opinion. Pretty cool set, though. I'm not going to give a rating, but they are both equally good. If you like one, you're going to like the other if you're interested in both characters. So, there it is, guys. There's Judge Dredd and Judge Anderson on their LAWMASTERs, or with their LAWMASTERs from Hiya Toys. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you probably should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.